Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Exciting news, Lumbering Megasloth and all the other Fallout cards are now available on Magic the Gathering Online, so you know I'm going to be jamming this in a Dark Depths build. The build we're playing today is a mono green build. The reason I've gone for mono green is because the curve of playing something like Dark Depths, Yavimaya into Lumbering Megasloth pushes us more towards that mono green sort of angle. Now the reason people like Megasloth here is it's a 12 mana 8/8 trampler, obviously 12 mana is a lot, but it gets reduced by 10 if we have 10 counters on a permanent, so Dark Depths. This is just a straight up combo where we get to make a turn 2 8/8. And this incentivizes us to have some other creatures to beat down with. Obviously, Dark Depths is just a thing. It's a one and done, hit them for 20, end of the game. But something like this is going to have to hit several times, so you want other creatures, which is where we include things like Reclaimer and Sowing Mycospawn, which can find us the key lands. We're obviously going to be a very land-centric deck here, so this can find us the key bits and pieces we need. We've also got some Thought-Knot Seer action as another creature that can beat down that we can start shooting for once we've got ourselves an Eye of Ugin and start putting bits and pieces together. So that's kind of our beatdown package. We've also got this Urza Saga. It's not going to go super out of control because we're not really heavily into artifacts. We've got a few little ones we've got here. So a bit of graveyard hate, hating on some other permanents, some ways of gaining some life and making our creatures have haste. Also got a Pithing Needle if we need that too. We've got a bunch of silver bullets on our land as you'd expect. So we've got Talon, Sejiri Steppe, Boseiju, Paducah Bog, Dryad Arbor, Maze of Ith. We can do the Echoing Deeps trick where we sacrifice a Paducah Bog, go and get an Echoing Deeps, and then it becomes a Paducah Bog, so we effectively have two of that, or two Talon Gates, or Sejiri Steppe, or whatever. So that's pretty good too. We've got a Dark Depths combos one would expect, and we have one Eye of Ugin, where if we're in the late game, we can use this to start pulling out more Sowing Mycospawns and just put the game away. And obviously we want to try and wasteland people right into the dirt. Crop rotation is a little bit of glue to make sure we find the right A's plus B's. I think Mox Diamond is the correct mana ramp for this deck, because we need to have access to more green mana, and this is just more green sources. Whereas we play something like Exploration, that's less actual green sources, so we need to play more green sources to compensate for that. So I think that's the correct line here. And hopefully once upon a time we'll do some smoothing out early doors. Sideboard-wise, we've got some removal in Dismember. We've got some hate for Blood Moon and stuff in the Force of Vigor. We've got some Graveyard Hate in Faerie Macabre. We've got some baubles for the combo decks that are playing a bunch of zeros and just going underneath whatever we're doing. And we have a Karaka so we can board in against things like Sneak and Show or whatever. So yeah, that's the deck. First time playing the Sloth on the channel. I'm pretty excited. So like and subscribe and join me on this little lumbering adventure. And if you'd like to see my videos early, just £1 a month gets you that from my YouTube membership. All right, let's go. Our first opening hand does not play the game, unfortunately, so let's mulligan this one. All right, this seems a little bit better. Lumbering Megasloth might take a little bit of time before it becomes the thing we want to be doing. We have a choice as to what we play out on turn 1. So realistically, what are we going to be keeping here? We obviously want to see the Megasloth do its thing, but that might take a little bit longer, but not necessarily if we've got these double Reclaimers. So I think we're going to put back the Mycospawn here, and let's aim high and get this Sloth into play. So I think we play out the Yavimaya here, because if we draw the Dark Depths next turn, we can just play the Sloth straight up. So this gives us a nice out to drawing the Sloth and just having a lot of pressure early doors. However, this does expose us to Wasteland, but then it'll be a Wasteland whilst we still have a creature in play. Right, an Ancient Tomb. What flavour of Ancient Tomb deck is this going to be? Are we looking at Eldrazi? Alright, we're looking at some Patchwork Stompy. So our opponent's going to be playing a bunch of zeros here. Alright, there's the first one. Just the one, okay. An Urza Saga. Is that where I want to be here? Do I want to be wastelanding our opponent? We could play out this forest and then turn this into a Dark Depths to get our turn 2 Megasloth. Alternatively, we could wasteland and play another Reclaimer here. I think we probably just want to get the bigger creature going. I think there's going to be utility from Urza Saga and Wasteland. So I think the thing we're probably going to be cycling away is the forest. In this matchup, we don't really care about our opponent impacting our lands, because that's not a thing this sort of deck does, generally speaking. They're the ones with all the Urza Sagas and the stompy lands like this. So they're not going to be trying to mess with our lands. Another Ancient Tomb. So our opponent's life total is going to be under some amount of duress here. Another Patchwork Stompy. Automaton. Agatha's Soul Cauldron. So this can give them the Emery abilities and things. That could be pretty tasty. This is a card I do not know. Refurbished Familiar. 4 mana, affinity for artifacts. When enters, each opponent discards a card. For each opponent who can't, you draw a card. Okay, it's a weird one. So we have to discard a card here. What do I like discarding? So I kind of want to keep this Wasteland around because we might be able to knock our opponent off of whatever their colour is. So I think we might discard... It's either the Saga here or the Reclaimer. If we discard the Saga, it means that next turn we will have access to 3/4 Reclaimers, which is pretty big news. So I think we get rid of the Saga here. And then aim to have our Dark Depths and Lumbering Megasloth be big enough to cope with whatever our opponent can throw us. Now, there is one significant downside to the Lumbering Megasloth that we have to talk about here. It enters tapped, which is not how I would like it to enter, that's for sure. Right, so we're going to go and get this Dark Depths. This also gives us the line of drawing a crop rotation or a Thespian stage to just have a 2020. Okay, we did not have the 2020 here. So we're going to go for the Megasloth. So we can either play out another Reclaimer, or we can Wasteland them and give us a 3/4. How good do I think a 3/4 is going to be based on what our opponent has here? I think we want to have another creature in play. I don't know why this has to come in tapped. Obviously, like the flavor-wise, it's a big sloth, it's slow, that sort of jam. Fair enough. But with the speed of Legacy, which is like pretty much the only place is illegal, it means that it's unlikely to keep up with some of the stuff going on. But hopefully we'll get there with some sloth action. Okay, am I taking 8 here? I think I am. Because now we can all of a sudden have 2 8/8s and 2 3/4s. So we can play a land out here. Can get another friend, and then we can have 2 3/4s to block with, because we can just cycle this Wasteland or this Forest or whatever into a Thespian stage and be threatening a kill. We can also go and get like a Talon Gates if that's the thing we need to do. The Mox Opal, that's going to grow there, guys. That's unfortunate for us that this patchwork is going to grow, but we probably double block, and then we lose 1 Reclaimer to take out patches. I think that's acceptable. Oh, another one of these. Sure. This is a weird one. There's obviously like some reason our opponent's playing this. I just don't quite know what that reason is yet. What is this? Ethereum Terramander. Can block only creatures with flying. Adapt 4. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each other artifact you control. Okay. Quite a big creature. 1 card left in our opponent's hand. We have 16 points of trample damage though. And they don't have the black mana to adapt this now. Well, they're really taking 4 life here. Chalice of the Void where X equals 1. I don't think you're supposed to tap your Ancient Tombs to do that. Oh, they didn't tap the Ancient Tombs, sorry. They're just tapping them for green mana. They're not tapping them for 2 mana. That's fine. That's fine. That makes sense. So now blocking this feels pretty bad. Oh, they're attacking with just the bird. Just the bird. Interesting. I think we're probably getting rid of probably the Forest here, so we can Wasteland the Spire of Industry and take them off of black. But they already have the Mox Opal, so maybe that's not the most useful thing. I'll get rid of the Forest because all of our things are forests anyway. Do we have a useful land here that we want? Or are we just looking at doing... We could do Talon Gates here to phase this out, but then we'll get countered by the ward on it right now. So we could just get a Thespian stage here and just threaten our opponent with a 2020. We're only on 5, so we're going to have to do some amount of maths here. We've got this card that we can't cast because they're Chalice. So we attack with 16 trample damage. They've got a 9/9 here. That is a bit rich for my blood. What is the ward cost on this? 2. So we could get Talon Gates of Madara and ward this out. And then they have 6, 7, 8. Sorry, 6, 7, 8. So they block this. They take 8. We can make them take 9, 10, 11. But then this comes back and they kill us on the crackback. If we were to do that. Trying to think. Maze of Ith not great versus the old patches because you have to pay a lot of mana for it. We could attack and then phase something out to get extra trample damage through. They have to put at least one of these in front of our guys. So let's just send in the sloths. All they're doing. If this is all they're doing, then we just get Talon Gates of Madara, blink this out, and then the trample goes through. Alright, we just get to win the game here. That's reassuring. Alright, yeah, so we blink this out, we hit them for 16. Alright, first game with sloths, and we won with sloths. Certainly one of the things I was interested in doing. Force of Vigor immediately gets into our deck. That's a given. Dismember has some options. Our opponent's got a weird build. I don't know what their 0 density is looking like either. They've got the Soul Cauldron, which definitely makes me consider something like the Saga Lantern and Pithing Needle as being worthwhile. I don't think Thought-Knot Seer is going to be doing very much here. Those become some amount of Force of Vigors. Boseiju Bog might be quite useful here. Sejiri Steppe. Our opponent's showing us some black flyers, so we're going to want to be able to push past them to win the game, so I think we keep that in. Boseiju, obviously great here. Yeah, maybe there's no lands that we're getting rid of here. The Maze of Ith is kind of awkward. I think we probably just have to live with it. How good do I think Sowing Mycospawn is? What is the land we're trying to fetch with the Mycospawn? That is the question. I don't think there is a great land that we're finding. Maybe we'll drop 1 crop rotation and split the difference here. Also, Sowing Mycospawn doesn't pitch to Force of Vigor, which is going to be one of our big haymakers here. This is a turn 2 Lumbering Megasloth. And we have a Dismember for turn 1. So this is kind of what we came here to do. Here you go, turn 1 Forest, hold up the Dismember. Turn 2, play Dark Depths, pitch Sejiri Steppe to Mox Diamond, and we go. Lotus Petal and a Seat of the Synod from our opponent. An Emery. This is a creature that I am more than happy to point a Dismember at. Now, there is an argument to play this Mox Diamond right now. If we play this Mox Diamond right now, what are we getting rid of? Is it the Dryad Arbor or is it the Sejiri Steppe? I think it's probably the Sejiri Steppe. And then we can just play out our Shadowspear. And next turn we can play out the Megasloth. And then get to work with our 9/9 Trample Lifelink. Maybe that's going to be good enough. A Soul Cauldron. Sure. So they can turn anything into an Emery here. Right, just getting rid of our land straight up. Sure. Here's a Megasloth. It's a thing we came here to do. In terms of combat, a 9/9 Lifelink Trampler is probably going to be good enough to beat a lot of what our opponent's creatures are going to be. But our opponent is definitely the sort of deck that could make a creature big enough to tangle with this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because they can remove a... so what are we doing here? I think we are equipping this to our little friend. I'll play this Dryad Arbor out now. We've seen black. Maybe they've got some kind of edict effect. This insulates us from that edict effect. Just swing with the big sloth. Right, that's a pretty big crack for 9 there. Swapping a Lotus Petal out for a construct. They're going to put a counter on it immediately with this Soul Cauldron. They are. So this is going to allow them to replay artifacts from their graveyard, so they could replay the Mox Opal Refurbished Familiar, which I guess is what they want to do, just keep playing the Familiar out and draining cards. But we have Trample, so we kind of don't really care about that. They're floating off the Saga because they don't have the mana to make a construct. I need the Spell Bomb. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's going to slow us down a little bit. And we got a blue source. Okay, they don't have a blue source right now. And they're attacking with a construct rather than trying to get back the Lotus Petal to activate their Spell Bomb. Okay. Would I trade a Dryad Arbor for a Patchwork Automata? Yes, I would. That won't work though because they have a Refurbished Familiar, right? Because they exile this to make this grow 1. So we're going to swing with the Megasloth. Like we could move the Shadowspear over there, attack for slightly more. I think that's probably what we're doing here. Just move this over, play out this forest. I don't think we need to play out this Mox Diamond. Yep, so they're going to grow their patches. So you could attack with a 2/2 Dryad Arbor there and force the block with the patches. Alright, they just want to get back their Lotus Petal here. Oh, sorry, their Mox. So they have a bounce spell for our Lumbering Megasloth. But they can't attack us with this construct. A Terramander. Okay. Okay. Guess we send this in, they trade it for the construct. That's really bad. We should have moved the equipment over here. Let's waste this. They're going to bounce our guy. Yeah, I don't like how I played that turn. Let's get the Megasloth back. They can replay this Aether Spellbomb every turn, but they need blue mana to pop it. So they can tap both of their guys. Okay, so now they can play it with the black mana, pop it with the blue mana. They should be in a pretty commanding position now. If we move the equipment over and attack, they bounce our guy anyway, and then we don't get to replay it, so I guess it's kind of worked out alright for us the way we did play it. There is the Spell Bomb, constantly growing his patches as well. So Force of Vigor would certainly not be a problem to draw. That would be very handy. Surprised they're not just getting in with the construct at this stage. Play this one out. So we kind of make them go through the motions here. It's interesting that Shadowspear can get rid of Hexproof but can't touch Ward. So this is just getting bounced again. But because we can replay it, we're very much incentivized to make this attack. Alright, come back Sloth. Yeah, we can get rid of our Wasteland. We don't actually have any graveyard synergies here, other than having a certain number of lands in our graveyard for Elvish Reclaimer. So our opponent's kind of locked into this Aether Spellbomb line. I think the turn we didn't move the equipment over to the Arbor and attack was definitely the crucial turn where we could have done things better. Because that would have forced the Patchwork to trade with our Dryad Arbor, then they wouldn't be able to activate and bring back 2 things. Well, not that they've been doing that anyway. But they should have been attacking us with this construct. So we should be down by at least 14 life by now. Another Terramander. So they can adapt this one pretty easily. Adapt 7. I have to pay for it. So they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, let's have the exact. Alright, it cost them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, they're not adapting, they're just playing more 1/1s. So they didn't want to get back their Aether Spellbomb either, which is quite peculiar to me. They could have got back a Spellbomb and worked on just turning one of these into a real threat. So this Megasloth can trade with the construct here. I suspect that's going to be what happens. They're double blocking. Do I care more about patches or do I care more about the construct? It's probably patches at this stage. We can play out our Yavimaya. We can also play out our Mox to grow our constructs. So if we make a construct now, we can also equip it. Who is the Urza Saga deck now, opponent? Yep, so they can get rid of the Megasloth to grow one of their guys. So they can't adapt this now. Seems kind of wild to me. Right, getting back to Spell Bomb. It's a pretty clean answer to our construct. But we're about to get a Pithing Needle, which can shut this down. Or we can get a Soul Guide Lantern. That's pretty good too. Another Terramander. I can attack with this 10-10. I guess we take 10 here. We kind of need to force the use of this Spell Bomb. Make some more Construct Friends. And getting rid of the Automata to pump their own guy. So our guy is a 4-4. If we play the Lavaspur Boots out, it becomes a 5-5. If we equip it, it has 6 power. If we equip this, it has 7 power. How much can our opponent block with here? They can only block 4 damage. So we just Lavaspur Boots them to death here, right? You're still on 2, opponent. Alright, so we got the match. I don't think we played that one the cleanest. I think we should have gone for the attack with the Dryad Arbor to take out the patches and force the block there. I think that would have made our lives a little bit easier. I also don't particularly like the way our opponent played this one, but obviously they're on a bit of a brew and there's some amount of learning curve of working out how it all works and pieces together here, but I think they could have been making these guys larger. They could have been doing some other bits and pieces too. Alright, let's go to round 2. Okay, this is an interesting hand. I am going to keep it. It's going to take a little while to get the mana to do our Lumbering Megasloth, but we have some Graveyard Hate, and in this current format, I'm quite happy just to keep a hand that has Graveyard Hate in. I'm recording this after the Eternal Weekend Asia, where Blue-Black Reanimator was 23% of the field, which is quite a terrifying statistic. So, packing my Soul Guide Lanterns. I think we do still want the Forest here. There's an argument to playing out the Thespian stage in case we draw exactly Yavimaya next turn. But if we draw Mox, we want to have this in play. Okay, Underground Sea and pass. An Eye of Ugin. Is that a thing I'm interested in right now? I'm just going to play out the stage and pass it over. Might take us a little while to get towards... We're going to be able to make a 20-20 before we make an 8-8. Our opponent's going to be unlikely to answer any of our stuff here. Psychic Frog. Sure. Good card is good. Thespian's Stage. What do I want to do with this Thespian Stage? So we can play the Talon Gates, which gives us green-green next turn if we want it. But we could use this to phase out their blocker. So I think the plan here is to play out the other Thespian Stage and then turn a stage into a forest. And then next turn we can deploy the 20-20 and then use the Talon Gates to get rid of their blocker. They do get to connect with the Frog. Brainstorm from our opponent. We'd like to reanimate their Troll. I think we have to stop this from happening. Let's get ourselves another Forest. I'm very much of the opinion that a 20-20 is better than an 8-8. Our opponent doesn't have many answers, but they probably have Wasteland in their deck. So I think we are going to make our Marit Lage in our opponent's upkeep to dodge a Wasteland that our opponent could draw. We'll use the one that is not a Forest. Right, we have a 20-20. Are they going to have their one-off Brazen Borrower? Are they going to have Entomb Reanimate for Archon of Cruelty? These are a selection of things our opponent can do to ruin our day. But they might just hold back this Frog to block, which would be the ideal situation because we're sat here with Talon Gates. No. Oh, they found it. They always find it. Sure. Yikes. Okay. This game is now very difficult because we don't have the Dark Depths in play to make our Lumbering Megasloths castable. Okay, we have access to it. I want to play this Eye of Ugin, or do I want to play a land that actually taps for mana? I think I want to play a land that actually taps for mana here. A Force of Will. Yep. Okay. Sometimes your opponent is going to have it all. And it's unfortunate that the blue-black Reanimator deck does just have everything in it. It's got this nice little tempo game plan with Frog. It's got the bounce spell when it needs it. It's got the reanimation busted stuff. Yikes. This was a game where our opponent mulled to 5 and we had Graveyard Hate. And we got to use the Graveyard Hate to get their reanimate out. Yeah. Pretty messed up. Thought-Knot Seer. Okay. Well, we can just draw Dark Depths and that's good enough to win the game a lot of the time anyway. But it does feel a little miserable. Okay, so this is 9, 10 damage, and then they can kill us on the backswing the following turn. These Lumbering Megasloths doing one of the things that I suspected they might do, which is sit in our hand while our opponent wins the game. Now, we could have played this game differently and just started jamming Lumbering Megasloths. Have a look at our Lumbering Megasloths. Yeah, so we could have done this game differently by just playing our Dark Depths and playing these out. But we're under so much pressure from the Psychic Frog, and they only have one answer to it in their entire deck. that it felt like it was probably worth a go. Alright, once upon a time. It's so close, but not close enough. Alright, we got bodied pretty hard there. Let's see if we can make things a little better with your friend of mine, Faerie Macabre. How do I feel about the other cards we have access to here? Crop Rotation certainly feels a little bit awkward against the counterspell heavy decks, so I wouldn't mind trimming that a little bit. It is Graveyard Hate still, so I don't mind trimming that a little bit. I don't think we want the Haywire Mite here. If our opponent's got Harbinger of the Seas, we probably want Dismembers for that. And Dismember can sometimes pick up a frog, but not always. We don't really need this Pithing Needle, I don't think. And then, what are we looking at cutting there? Which of these equipments goes? Lavaspur Boots is pretty handy, but obviously not great with our Lumbering Megasloth. But it's good to make a hasty Marit Lage. We already have Trample on the Megasloth. If we're in a race, I like having Shadowspear a lot. It's kind of tricky. I want them both, but I don't think we get them both. I'm not big into the Thought-Knot Seer. I think we can trim a couple of those. Maybe we'll take out another Crop Rotation just because I don't want it to get counterspelled. And we can just go and fetch things up with the Mycospawn. We're boarding in more Graveyard Hate anyway. Try it like this. Well, this is how we drew it up, isn't it? So I will keep this one. So there's a turn 2 Megasloth, turn 3 Marit Lage. That's quite the curve. We are exposed with this Yavimaya somewhat, but we don't really have a better option. We could play out this Mox Diamond now, but I think I'm going to hold it for a turn in case we draw a land I'm more inclined to pitch. Because if our opponent Wasteland us, maybe we want to keep this land. So we're going to play it this turn so we can play around a Daze. Okay, so let's play this Mox Diamond out. This gives us the ability to play around Daze. And I will play out this Elvish Reclaimer because it gives us access to Boseiju Bog next turn if we need it. Now, if our opponent end of turn entombs, untaps, reanimates, then we only lose the Reclaimer, which is not as bad as losing the Sloth. And then next turn we can put a massive 20/20 body in front of our opponent's probably Archon of Cruelty. I imagine that's what they get here. There it is. An Animate Dead, getting back the Archon of Cruelty, so we lose a creature. We do have the biggest creature on board, which isn't something I was expecting to happen. And we get rid of this Thought-Knot Seer. The time has gone for that one. Place one out. So we have to make this at the right time. Our opponent has a Wasteland here. That can ruin us. So we can make this now. And then if they attack... So if we make it now, we play around Wasteland. And they attack, we lose our Sloth. Then we put this in front. If they have a way of getting the Sloth off the board... I think we have to play around the Wasteland. I think that's the correct play here. But if they can answer the Sloth or whatever... we're losing to Brazen Borrower regardless. I don't know if they can attack here. They certainly believe they can. So we take the damage here. Because if we block, they can just reanimate it again. And that could be their out to Marit Lage. There's the Wasteland that we played around. Did we find the line? Have they got the Brazen Borrower? They got a Psychic Frog. Okay, so that can block for a turn. Okay, so we need Sejiri Steppe or Crop Rotation if they don't Wasteland us here. Or Talon Gates. A Boseiju. Okay. So the Boseiju can get rid of the Animate Dead so our opponent doesn't get to attack us again. But another removal spell and we lose. So we go to the beginning of combat and then we take this out. Goodbye to Archon of Cruelty. If they've got another reanimation spell, we lose. But we've done everything in our power to play around the things our opponent could have had. And they had some number of these things, right? They had the Wasteland. They may have had the Daze. We don't know. And Undercity Sewers. Alright, let's see if we can bash for 20. No. They always have it. They always have it. Okay. Yikes. Let's make a medium-sized creature. And they got the Force of Will. Sure. Okay, so they can take us down to no lands. That doesn't seem great for us. So they got Psychic Frog. I don't want to play this game anymore. Yikes, that was savage. Yeah, most played deck in the format that needs probably 2 to 3 burns is going to beat us sometimes, and that's life. Let's go to round 3. Yeah, this hand is fine. I'll keep this one. Got an Elvish Reclaimer on 1. That does an awful lot of work. Are we against the blue-black deck again? We are. Is it Doomsday? Wouldn't mind seeing a bit of Doomsday. Something a little bit different than just getting reanimated on all the livelong day. Right, basic land. Reclaimer. We getting dazed? We're not getting dazed, so we might be getting fatal pushed instead. Now, Spellbomb from our opponents. That doesn't impact what we're doing. This probably says that our opponent is on the fairer side of things. So, what am I looking at here? Traditionally speaking, the Marit Lage plan is pretty good against a lot of these sorts of decks. So that's what we're going to go for. We're going to turn this forest end step into a Dark Depths, untap, play the stage. Play the Yavimaya, and then have a jolly good time about it. So far, the green mana has been okay, but we have been in some... Oh, Stifle. Brutal. Brutal indeed. Okay. So, our opponent didn't play a land, so now it's our turn to be the mean one. Okay, so we're on some sort of Esper plan here. We've lost our creature to a Swords to Plowshares. What is my line here? Can we play the Mox Diamond? Okay, we're getting a Force of Will for that. Sure. They might be thinking they can cut us off of colours that way. About the Reclaimer. I wonder if there's some sort of Esper Dreadnought build. Or is this Stifle just like a 1 or 2 of to get people sometimes? Which I can respect. Psychic Frog, you say? So we have a Maze of Ith here. That certainly helps out with this pesky little frog. A Murktide Regent. Yeah, that's pretty good. This time we can't get hit by a Stifle, so that's good. We can get our Dark Depths. Got Thespian stage. Do you think our opponent is running Wastelands? No, they're definitely running Plows though. Do I have the time to slow roll this a turn and Thought-Knot Seer to make sure the coast is clear? Maybe I do. I think so. Let's see what you're working with, opponent. Don't want to get jammed up by a Swords to Plowshares here. We've got the time to take a hit and then carry on. We can do Echoing Deep stuff as well with play Talon Gates on our turn. Turn it into something else while still making our Marit Lage. Alright, they're discarding cards to their frog. No Brazen Borrower. So they did have the answer. That's somewhat reassuring. I'll tell you what isn't reassuring is Psychic Frog hitting us in the face. But I believe in the power of Marit Lage to get us out of this one. Right, so our opponent wants to draw an extra card here. This is going to shrink our Reclaimer, but we don't care about that. The Reclaimer's done its job to find us the pieces we needed. Maybe it can be a Sejiri Steppe finding Reclaimer down the line as well. How many things they got in their graveyard? At the moment, they've only got 1 thing in their graveyard they can remove with a frog to pump the regents. They can only hit us for like 8 with the regent, depending on what they have in hand. Sure, you grow your big dragon. They have to jump the frog because we have the ground relatively well covered. Unless they want to pitch their whole hand. So we take half of our life total. But next turn, we got some tools. I'm somewhat fearful of a Stifle. So if our opponent taps out here for some reason, then I think we go for it with the combo. Plains, 2 cards left in hand. They haven't tapped out, so we're going to go in their upkeep most likely here. An Echoing Deeps. We didn't really want that in our hand, did we? What use is playing the Echoing Deeps versus the Talon Gates? I think we want the Talon Gates in play. We'll get them for 4 here. This means it's going to be more difficult for them to plow their own guy to survive. So in our opponent's upkeep, we're going to do this now. Unless they tap out on our end step. So this becomes a copy of this. Stifle here is obviously very good, but they didn't give us a window to play around it. They can't Stifle once this stage has happened, because the ability just keeps trying to resolve until it resolves, basically. So we have access to a Sejiri Steppe. And what we can do with the Sejiri Steppe is go and find it. The next turn we can turn it into something else and then play our Echoing Deeps as a copy of the Sejiri Steppe to push through. A Prismatic Ending. Spirit Protection from white. How do you feel about that one, opponent? They didn't have a Swords to Plowshares, otherwise they would have fired it off in response. So I'm feeling okay. We're going to do the thing I said where we turn one of these into, get rid of the Sejiri Steppe into something else, and then we get the Echoing Deeps as a copy of the Sejiri Steppe. Give us Pro Blue, swing for 20. That is the line. There's a long pause there. Alright, so they're coming in. This makes me think our opponent doesn't have an answer and they're trying to draw one. Oh, what have I done? I've made a horrible mistake here. If they have another instant or sorcery, yeah, we absolutely messed that one up. Yeah, we messed that one up big time. We blocked this. They do get to draw another card to try and find another answer, but we had that one, I think. Ugh. Hate the way I played that one. Okay, so some kind of Esper deck. I don't really know what else our opponent's got in their list. I think we might just run it back, to be honest. We need to keep a high density of creatures. We don't know if they've got any graveyard-based shenanigans. Oh, wait a minute. This is a different version than the one I had in the deck tech, because this only has the 4 Thought-Knot Seers, not the one Boseiju. Paducah Bog. All turned around now. I think... Like, Dismember can sometimes kill a Psychic Frog, but sometimes doesn't kill a Psychic Frog, and that feels like a problem. I think we're just going to run it back. I'll keep this one. There we go. Yavimaya into Reclaimer. Force of Will straight up, pitching a Stifle. Sure. So we need crop rotation, stuff like that would help here. If I play out the Dark Depths now, that gives us the chance to draw into our combo next turn. Does leave us a little bit more exposed to Wasteland right now, but I think it's the highest upside. They could Wasteland our Yavimaya and put us down to 0 mana sources though. Psychic Frog, yep. Good card is good. Thought-Knot Seer. Not really a good card right now. So we need to have this Wasteland as our colourless source. We can't really afford to do anything. So our whole early game hinged on having this Reclaimer in play. Now our opponent gets to have a free hit with the Psychic Frog. I can play a Mycospawn around a daze. Another Psychic Frog. I'm not going to bother removing the counter. It's technically correct, but it doesn't actually make a difference. So let's get this. Because if they want to daze this, then we still get the trigger that goes and finds us the Thespian stage, which also casts our Reclaimer because we have the Yavimaya we have in play. Alright. So we're going to get the Thespian stage. Here comes Reclaimer. Have you got another daze? We do not. So we probably need to do Thought-Knot Seer stuff to check the coast is clear before we can do this, especially since our Sejiri Steppe is in hand. We could just rely on Talon Gates, or we could play the Sejiri Steppe and then turn it into an Echoing Deeps and then get the protection that way. That works too. But our opponent's just got all the cards in the world over there and punted the previous game, so it's all riding on our opponent not finding the right stuff with these Psychic Frogs in this game. And Undercity Sewers, yep. We knew they had that one because they picked it up earlier. And milled off a Tamiyo. Not surprised to see that in there. Big Daddy Murktide Regent, you say? That's quite the Magic the Gathering card. So, what am I doing here? So, these 3 lands make a Marit Lage. This gives us protection. We don't have a way of checking the coast is clear. I think, given the state of our opponent's board, we need to just make the guy. We know that they have a Stifle package in their deck, so I think we are just making the guy now. This exposes us to Prismatic Ending, but it dodges Wasteland Stifle. There's not really a good option either way. But our opponent doesn't have white mana at the moment, so I'd rather play around the things that are blue mana related, like the Stifles. Brainstorm from our opponent, that suggests to me that they're looking for an answer. We then get in a situation where, are we trying to just Abyss the opponent every turn, or do we want to try and just go for a win by giving our creature protection? There's that Plains. A to Faerie. Okay, if you try and bounce our Marit Lage, then we get to activate some abilities here. So we're going to get Echoing Deeps. Copy of Sejiri Steppe. Give our guy protection from blue this turn, I guess. It doesn't really matter what colour it is. I think white is better. Just they're not going to have a Solitude here. And our creature's big enough and indestructible enough that it doesn't care about our opponent's creatures. So now our opponent is in the Abyss. But how do we get out from underneath this? That is the question. We can Talon Gates one of their guys. That's reasonable. But we can hold up Talon Gates to dodge the next removal spell, which I think is the correct thing to do here. So we'll attack our opponent. Something has to go under the bus. We don't get to play a Thought-Knot Seer and hold up our thing. Right, then jump in the frog so it can chump. And then we just hold it out for our opponent to not remove our creature. We can Talon Gates it to keep it alive. Instant speed, Prismatic Ending is a lot to worry about as well. Right, putting a card into the graveyard from the Psychic Frog so they can make it jump. So how much can they come in us for here? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That is not lethal. But if they have like a removal spell and our Talon Gates protects our creature, it doesn't actually mean that we get to beat this clock that our opponents put us on. So we're in trouble in numerous ways here. Alright, 4 cards in our opponent's hand. We can Wasteland to stop a Force of Will here, I think is what I will do. I don't think they're going to be casting spells with this blue mana. I could be wrong though. So if they remove our creature, they're hitting the Elvish Reclaimer. So what do we get here? If they have a removal spell, then our guy is just dead. If we get a Maze of Ith, then we're okay-ish. And they have a Borrower here, and they just crap back and kill us. Yeah, no, we're not okay. Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, we punted the first game there. We should have just blocked the Murktide Regent, let them have an extra card. Because if they had any instants or sorceries in their hand, we just lose then, and that's exactly what happened. That's very upsetting, but that's on me. This second game, we just got absolutely clowned upon. I think there's some fundamental problems with what we're doing with our deck. And like we're just letting the Psychic Frogs hit us. We don't really have the ability to fight them. And that's causing us issue. Alright, let's go to round 4. Don't like this one too much. It's a bit slow. No green mana is bad on this one. Alright, this one works for me. I think we get rid of the Pithing Needle and probably the Crop Rotation. Try and play a fairish game. I think Crop Rotation is a card where if we play it and it gets countered or whatever, it's devastating. We've had to mulligan this deep. Just gives our opponent a very easy 2-for-1. Maybe we've just got lands, we can play our spells, we can play an Urza Saga game. Just make some constructs, have a good time. We have the Maze of Ith now, though. A Bayou, a green Sun's there. So we play against Cradle control. That's a nice, refreshing change. So we could Wasteland our opponent, or we could just get our Urza Saga running. I think the Saga is probably where I'm at here. I don't think we have the resources to keep up with Wastelanding our opponent. We need to try and win the game instead and put some threats on board. The other option here is to, instead of doing Saga stuff, we turn the Saga into a Dark Depths and hope we draw a green source. Or we can two-step it by turning it into a Yavimaya and then turning it into a Dark Depths. But I think that the time that it would take to do that, we'd just be better off churning out construct tokens and beating face. A Cradle, okay. Have they got a creature to make this Cradle better? They do. So now they have 2 mana off this Cradle, 1 mana off this Arbor. Right, 3 mana off the Cradle now. And no follow-up. Are we supposed to wasteland this Cradle? I believe the answer to that is yes. Before this Elvish Reclaimer of theirs starts doing stuff, we're going to see an Endurance. Yes, okay. That was expected. So now we're probably holding up Reclaimer. So this Saga is not going to be able to do anything here. So we probably want to turn it into something better. If we get ourselves a Yavimaya, then it means our Maze of Ith will tap for green. If we get an Eye of Ugin, it means we can cast the Mycospawn next turn. If we draw any land. But Mycospawn doesn't, but Eye of Ugin doesn't help us cast a lot of our permanents. Right, our opponent's doing similar things to what we're doing, except they're doing it better than us. Which doesn't feel like a great place to be in. And they're cracking for 4 here. This Saga probably needs to become... Like, we could go and get the Pithing Needle and try and shut down the white. But they already have a Reclaimer anyway, so it's not really achieving very much for us. What do we have? We don't have any useful stuff like Tabernacle that we could mess our opponent up with. I think it's just the Yavimaya, as sad as that is. Or is it the Dark Depths and we aim high? I think it has to be the Yavimaya though, because otherwise we don't get to play the game anymore. Echoing Deeps. Do I want this Echoing Deeps in play right now? It could be a Wasteland. That might be okay. Or we could just play as Maze of Ith and turtle up behind that. I think we play the Maze of Ith with the intention of getting the Dark Depths in favour of the Forest, and then we can play the Lumbering Megasloth. But it does feel like our opponent's doing similar things to us, but better, which is not really a place I like to be. Right, so our opponent's doing some Elvish Reclaiming of their own. There is a Cradle, so we can see something like a Natural Order, and then we can just scoop it up and go to game 2. And once upon a time, I could find them a Crater Hoof. Got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana, so they could cast it and kill us. Just an Ignoble Hierarch. Alright, that is certainly on the weaker end of things they could find. But it still does stuff, right? If they want to attack with Exalted, though, we get to Maze of Ith it. Oh, they have a Natural Order as well. Okay, okay. You got the Crater Hoof. I'm hovering the concede button. There it is. Yep. Once again, our opponent styled on us pretty hard. So, Dismembers, we would like these in. And I think that's all we really want to include. The Thought-Knot Seer can take out a key thing if we need it to, but I don't really want the Soulguide Lantern here. The Pithing Needle is kind of important. Haywire Mite not doing very much. Maze of Ith is good. The Talon Gate's good. This Eye of Ugin isn't really something that's been a thing that we want, is it? I think the 4/4 Thought-Knot Seer body is actually a good enough body that we want to keep it, though. Haste and stuff like that might be really important, given our opponent's ability to fetch up some spooky lands. Like, we probably have to trim from this 4 drops. Do I think Mycospawn or Thought-Knot Seer is better? Probably the Mycospawn. Like, it synergizes with what our deck's trying to do. What does this hand even accomplish? We have Wastelands. We have the Needle for the white of the Reliquary. I think we just play out the Yavimaya to begin with. And I don't just want to hammer in the Pithing Needle now. I can play it next turn anyway, and that's not an issue. Because we're just going to get the Urza Saga popping. A little Ignoble Hierarch. Urza Saga can learn to do some stuff. Let's play Pithing Needle. Let's name White of the Reliquary. Let's get some Lavaspur Boots in. Let's make some hasty friends. You know what's really good with haste? Things that aren't Lumbering Megasloth. Ugh. That Force of Vigor is pretty savage. Okay. So now what are we doing? Drawing Dark Depths and having an okay-ish time? Talon Gates. This is not going to phase anything out. Alright. An Elvish Reclaimer. That's a good card too. Getting in for 1 damage with the Hierarch. Sure. We didn't draw the thing that we needed to draw. And now we're just kind of stuck with this Lumbering Megasloth in our hand. Right, we're taking another 1 chip damage from the Hierarch. The Wasteland can check whatever our opponent gets with the Reclaimer, because whatever they get comes in tapped. Dismember. Not unhappy to see that one, I can tell you that much. So I'm going to fetch something at end step, then we can dismember this Reclaimer. Depending on what they get, we can Wasteland it if that's the thing we really care about. Swamp. Let's just get rid of the Reclaimer now. Now we could take out 2 of our opponent's lands, but they still have a land and a Hierarch, and then where are we? A long way off of doing anything, whereas we can Sowing Mycospawn to get something like the Dark Depths, which is the reason why we put the Mycospawn in the deck. I think we have some little fundamental flaws in our deck that we're going to address at the end of this league. Interesting they're getting with a Hierarch instead of the Arbor, because the Arbor gets in for 2. Obviously we can Wasteland that, but we can do that anytime anyway. What is this going to be? A Grist the Hunger Tide. Oh, good, isn't it? That's a really good Magic the Gathering card. However, we can defeat this... yeah, we can defeat this Grist the Hunger Tide. We play the Dark Depths. Then we play the Mycospawn. Then we get Talon Gates. Phase out their insect token. Then we equip the Mycospawn and kill the Grist. That is a pretty good turn. Oh, they got Snuff out. Oh, no. I was so happy with what we were doing. And now we are once again in the dirt. We're getting up to natural order kills us time. So if they play a land, natural order, we just die. Alright, we're just getting attacked for 2. That is better for us. But now they've got this kill saved up on the Grist. Oh, that Snuff out was so good. A Dismember. Let's play a tapped creature. We may as well equip it for all the good it does us. Gives it ward 1. Saves us mana next turn. We can Dismember, only paying 2 life. Okay, so they're going to be killing our Lumbering Megasloth here. Getting rid of the Ignoble Hierarch is a weird choice to me. Surely the Ignoble Hierarch is just better than an insect token here. I guess their plan is to just go all in with a bunch of things so that we can't interact with this Wasteland that we have. They've got another one. Honestly, it's not worth dismembering any of these creatures. So we're just kind of stuck with this dismembering hand that looks really bad. Okay, we can have an Elvish Reclaimer. We can equip our Elvish Reclaimer. So we could attack this Grist. But I think we have to just hold back. And then we can go and find a Thespian stage for next turn. And maybe we can get the game won with the 2020. So they minus here. That's not the end of the world for us. Cradle is a lot of mana, but mana didn't really seem to be too big of an issue. They had 4 mana this turn anyway. Okay, so we have 2 choices here. We can either defend our Reclaimer with a Sejiri Steppe, or we can go and make a 2020, which might actually win us the game. And I think the line that might win us the game is the better line. Would you like to pay for this ward, opponent? I suspect they will. Let's go and get ourselves a Thespian stage. So our opponent isn't currently presenting enough damage to kill us, but that doesn't mean that they don't have enough damage to kill us. A White of the Reliquary. How big is that? 5/5. Okay. So if I dismember this, I go to 4, and then I hit this, and I go to 3. If I take this damage, dismember, I don't have any way of filtering the dismember. Alright, so let's see if our dismember works here. Right, so we can get rid of this Dryad Arbor, save ourselves a point of damage. We go to 3, which is importantly enough to survive with what we've got going on here. Total control decks tend not to even run Wastelands these days. A Crop Rotation. That is a useful card. So, this copies this. We keep the Thespian stage. We Lavaspur Boots it. A Boseiju. Not a big lover of this Boseiju, truth be told. We get another Thespian stage, I suppose. So they could have stacked that in a different way. I think we take out this... Do we take out the Cradle here? 1, 2, 3, 4. We take out the Cradle, they can still 4. We're still dead. I think we have to save the Wasteland. We kill our opponent next turn. They can cast Natural Order and kill us with anything anyway. But let's say they play some kind of man land or something weird like that. But if they play a man land and they're not answering our 2020 next turn, hasty 2020 might be good enough. Right, they're milling with the Grist. Is there anything interesting in there? Not really. Oh, they milled the Crater Hoof. That is something. They need to have like an endurance type card here. Green Sun Zenith where X equals 1. I don't know what that could be. Another Reclaimer? Because that doesn't do it. Another Hierarch. Wait, that does do it, doesn't it? Oh no. Oh no, the Zenith for the Reclaimer, for the Hierarch. Yeah, because they're going to get 2 Exalted triggers now. And that's us cooked. Ugh. We made a game of it there, but came down poorly at the end right there. Okay, we're 4 rounds into this league, and look at it. 0-2, 0-2, 0-2, 2-0. Now, we punted around in one of these games. That last game was really close, so this looks a bit more one-sided than it was, but our deck is problematic. Let's see if we can pick up the 2-3 by winning the final round. This is a weird and ugly hand. Our only green mana comes from Mox Diamond. If we Mox Diamond, we lose one of our combo pieces. I don't think we can keep this one. Okay, we actually have a Once Upon a Time. That's a start. I think we keep this one. And what goes back here? Is it a Thought-Knot Seer? I think it probably is. I don't think the Thought-Knot Seer should be in the deck. Certainly not in this iteration of the deck. Underground Sea from our opponents. And a Ponder. Sure. They did not shuffle off the Ponder. The question we have now is, do we play a land out before we Once Upon a Time? To play around days? I think so. Eye of Ugin is a weird one here, isn't it? Because we can Eye of Ugin to get our Mycospawn going a turn earlier. Or 2 turns earlier, in fact. Because we can just Eye of Ugin, Mycospawn next turn. That seems pretty good. A Brainstorm from our opponents. Could be looking for a Wasteland. We don't really care if our Mycospawn gets days since it gets us our combo card. There's a Wasteland. They're going to snap off immediately. We're going to wait for this Eye. They're going to snap it off immediately. Okay. That changes some things around a little bit for us. We did not draw a land, which suggests to me that we want to just play out a Wasteland. I don't think we want to actually Wasteland our opponent's land here, because that sets us so far back. Oh, an Entomb. Okay, then our opponent's probably just going to Entomb, Reanimate, and get us. They are using this to shuffle a Brainstorm, so it might not be a, we've got it right now. It might be a, I need to draw cards that aren't the top cards of my library. We have a Boseiju which can deal with Animate Dead, but we can't deal with Reanimate itself. A Ponder, okay. We now need to decide which land we want to offer up to a potential Wasteland. It's probably the Eye of Ugin. We can't give up our only green source. A Dark Depths, you say? Does that change anything here? I don't think it does. I think that means we play the Eye of Ugin. Next turn we Boseiju into Yavimaya, and then we can play a bunch of stuff. Another Entomb. Just getting the cards I don't want to draw out. Are we getting Ruined here? Just a Psychic Frog. I can live with the Psychic Frog. Don't have the Bojuka Bog in our deck because I seem to have submitted the wrong build. So there is that. Let's cast this one. It's Yavimaya. Unfortunately, this doesn't tap for colourless, so we can't make the Thought-Knot Seer. I'll pay for this. We're not doing anything else with our mana, so. Next turn, we have a lot of tools at our disposal here. We can go Lumbering Megasloth and Thought-Knot Seer. And then we are bringing the beef. Right, they're jumping the frog, not a surprise. Going to bash us for 1. They have the Reanimate. Well, this is a disaster. What are you going to find, opponent? Is it something that beats Marit Lage? Brazen Borrower does beat Marit Lage. Is that what they're going for, though? They can just put the Archon of Cruelty into play as well, and I don't think we're beating both of those. Yeah, because they can get Lotus Petal and the Animate Dead here. And just immediately put this Archon of Cruelty into play. And we lose our Mycospawn, we lose a card from hand, and then we have so much stuff to get through that I don't think that we can realistically do that. Yeah, so they've gone for this line. They've put the Lotus Petal and the Animate Dead in hand, which they were all going to do. Yeah, okay. They've got us. What do we want to do? We want some graveyard hate. Hello, Faerie Macabres. I don't think we want the Shadowspear. I think we just want the haste. And I don't think we want the Pithing Needle. It gives us one more cut. It's probably one of these clunky old Thought-Knot Seers. We could bring in the Caracas, actually. I don't really want to be bouncing the Atraxa, but I'd rather that than it be in play. Our Vexing Baubles aren't really for this matchup. Yeah, we could maybe stop some of their counter spells, but at what cost, right? Actually, we don't have the Bojuka Bog. We should probably take out one of these crop rotations. Okay. This does some things. Play out Boseiju. Play out a Mox Diamond. We're going to pitch this as a Saga. This will allow us to cast a Soul Guide Lantern and an Elvish Reclaimer. Next turn, we get to make a Lumbering Megasloth. This is among the higher end of what our draws can accomplish, outside of like turn 2 Marit Lage, I suppose. We could have played the Soul Guide Lantern out first, but I needed to make sure the Mox Diamond resolved before we chose what we were playing out. Because if our opponent Force of Wills the Mox Diamond, then we don't get to do that. So we do lose a card in our graveyard. But I don't think that's going to be the metric this game is won and lost on. So our Lumbering Megasloth will run afoul into a Daze. Does that mean we're supposed to not use it? Another Dark Depths. Does that change anything here? We could jam the Megasloth into a Daze, and it gets reanimated on us, potentially, and then we're in trouble. Okay, I think the play here is just hold up the Reclaimer. Next turn we can play around Daze. So we probably turn our Dark Depths into a Thespian stage, so we can play the Sloth and then threaten the 2020 the next turn. Alternatively, we could just threaten the 2020 and not bother with the Sloth. There is a Wasteland. Does that change anything here? I think it does. And we sacrifice this and go to Yavimaya and see if our opponent wants to interact with that at all. If they're interacting with that instead of our Dark Depths, that's probably good for us. This means we can untap and hold up the Reclaimer to cycle out anything they do target. This is kind of their last chance to use that Wasteland profitably. Can I have a Megasloth? Alright, so our opponent might be able to reanimate this now. Not a thing I want to happen. Saga Lantern is opponents. So we can't exile our own graveyard. Now they're going to assume that we have a Boseiju Bog in our deck. So we can maybe just try and bluff our way. Because I somehow made a mistake. I think I had the original build where I didn't have the Boseiju Bog and then added it in immediately. And I seem to still be on the old one when I click submit for the league. Unfortunate. Psychic Frog from our opponent, still holding up this Wasteland, which means we don't get to do the things we want to do here. Let's get rid of this Yavimaya, because we've got another one in hand. I think we get an Urza Saga and start ticking that up. That's obviously worth Wastelanding for our opponents. Getting wasted in upkeep? I didn't think we were. Play this out. Do we need to play out this Haywire Mite? So you have 2 mana for the Saga, 2 mana for the Reclaimer activation. That means you don't get to play out this Haywire Mite, although it could be useful in the face of an Animate Dead. But our opponent's probably not going to Animate Dead when we have this Saga Lantern and Elvish Reclaimer in play. We need to be careful to not put ourselves in a position where our opponent can just remove all of our green mana as well. Frog's going to be attacking here. Our opponent's got 5 cards in hand. That's a lot of cards. Are we going to the sky with the frog? They are. Okay. So we don't have to make that decision whether or not we're blocking it. Let's make a construct. What are we even sacrificing here is the problem. Because if we sacrifice our Boseiju, they can just take us off green, apart from our Mox Diamond. Do I want that to happen? I think they're not going to be trying to Wasteland us off of green if we're representing the combo here. So I need to keep this Wasteland up for this. We're trying to give our opponent the option to make some bad decisions. They're hitting our Dark Depths right now. Okay. They've only got 2 cards in hand. We could try and put a win on the board here, right? We could go 1-2, turn this into Dark Depths, play this, make this copy this. Oh, we're still 1 mana shy though, aren't we? So I think we go make a friend. We're going to get the Lavaspur Boots. That's Wasteland. That's Haywire Mite. And then we are in beatdown mode. There's a lot of damage. What, 16 damage puts our opponent to 2. There's a brainstorm from our opponent. Once again, it's the world of... Oh wow, we're keeping our opponent. Yep. Once again, it's the world of... You build a deck, you kind of put some Urza Sagas in it as a useful thing, and it kind of ends up being the best thing in your deck. That's kind of what it feels like here. Yeah, I think we just submit again, try and be somewhat aggressive as best we can. We can start doing the Urza Saga thing as early as turn 1, or, you know, we can play our Urza Saga on turn 1. Honestly, I think that might be one of the best things our deck does, so I'm going to lean into that. We also can cast our green spells, and we have a Once Upon a Time to make informed decisions with. Our opponent is mulligan to 5, which bodes well for us, although they did beat us on a multi... I think this was the match where they beat us on multi 5. No, they multi 6, I think, in game 1. Okay, there's a Misty. What are we doing here? A Thought Seize. Okay, I will cast a Once Upon a Time and turn it into a land of some description. Sowing Mycospawn. I think I like that more. Let's take the Mycospawn. If we find like a Dark Depths or something there, then we take it. So they can take the Mox Diamond and slow us down. Our opponent is on 3 cards over there, so I'm going to be firing this Wasteland off before we do anything else. They took the Mox Diamond. Understandable. Oh, we've already cast one Once Upon a Time, haven't we? I was thinking, oh, can we get another one? But that's not how the card works. So opponent's on limited resources. So if we hit this, the chance of them being able to go land, Psychic Frog is a lot lower, and then we can kind of work our way into the game as we see fit from that point onwards. Right, no other 1-drop here. Soul Guide Lantern. Don't mind if I do that. Stops us losing to the scariest things our opponent can do. Maybe they were... Okay. Take out this Thoughtseize. So maybe their hand was like Thoughtseize into Entomb, Reanimate. That sort of thing. That would be perfectly keepable. So next turn we play the Urza Saga and the Once Upon a Time. Then we start cranking out the tokens. Then we get the Mycospawn. If If our opponent misses a land, maybe once upon a time into a Wasteland for the turn afterwards. We've got options. Metamorphosis Fanatic. That card is a little bit scary. It means that if they get multiple ones, they can chain them. Okay, would you like to take my Once Upon a Time on my Sowing Mycospawn? Would you like the Eldrazi or the Mystery Box? What's in the box? Could be anything. Could be the best card you've ever seen. Yep, they took the Mystery Box. This Sowing Mycospawn needs time to do stuff. Alright, let's get this Urza Saga in. Start cranking out the constructs. Now, if they've been sandbagging a Wasteland and take our Saga, then at least we've got a piece towards our Dark Depths combo. There's the Wasteland. Alright. Goodbye, Urza Saga. No constructs for us. Another Sowing Mycospawn. I would like to play this Yavimaya. That means if we draw the Eye of Ugin, we can just cast a bunch of stuff. Imagine if we were running Exploration in our deck. How good would that be? Make these 4-drops actually castable instead of these ugly messes that they are. A Dark Depths, you say. I'll play out this Thespian stage, and we're going to just copy this forest straight up. Before our opponent gets to do Wasteland in, so we're not like, oh, when is the right time to do this? Blah, blah, blah. An Entomb. Okay, well, we have an answer to the first thing they Entomb. It's an Atraxa. 4 cards in hand, they're all spells. Kind of scary. So we could just go for a Dark Depths win here. Or we could put our opponent in Wasteland Jail. I'm a big fan of Wasteland Jail here. Consigned to memory. We don't get to put them in Wasteland Jail. Not this turn, anyway. And a daze. We will not pay for this one. Right, we got 2 form when our opponent already mulled to 5, so we're cooking. So we got a land in hand. It is an enter the battlefield tap land, and we might be able to just dome that with our Mycospawn this turn. Because the problem with just playing out the Dark Depths and going for our combo is, what if they draw a land and have Brazen Borrower? Quite like this Mycospawn as well. We cannot cast this with kicker though. Alright, our opponent's just scooped it up because the Lantern's doing enough work. So we got there due to sideboard cards and our opponent mulliganing. So all in all, a 2-3 record. We punted one game, but we got crushed in the other game in that one. And our opponent, we got a little bit unlucky to lose 2-0 against the Cradle Control, but I would highly expect to lose 2-1 if we didn't lose that game. So, let's talk about this deck. So there are some fundamental problems with this deck. The first of them is probably that Lumbering Megasloth isn't really good enough to play, like, to build around. And enter the battlefield tap thing that, okay, if this comes down on turn 2, it looks good. If it comes down on other turns, it looks really slow by the standards of Legacy. What I will say, though, is our opponent can't reliably remove this unless they're in white a lot of the time. Black removal these days tends to be a lot of fatal pushes. You might see they'll shoot the Sheriff and stuff like that can hit it. But it's going to dodge some removal the same way that Murktide Regent is quite good now because, obviously it was great before, but it's even better now because people aren't packing the removal for it because everyone has to kill Frog and Tameo and Nethergoyf and all that sort of jazz. But I'm not really convinced by the Sloth. Now, the problem with this deck isn't that it's a Sloth deck, though. There are some other fundamental problems here. So we got these 4-drops here. We should probably change this list so it looks more like the list we actually played today. Yeah, so this is the actual build we played because for some reason the version I submitted that had the Bajuka Bog wasn't the one we ended up playing. Anyway, so you could put Bajuka Bog in this deck and it would get better. That's step 1. But I think the problem is running all these Eldrazi's without ways of powering them out apart from this one Eye of Ugin doesn't feel great. Now, what we could do is we could lean into this Eldrazi plan a little bit more and run the full 8 4-drops here. But then also run like 4 Eye of Ugin with the idea that we can just Mox Diamond or crop rotate them away if we don't want them. And then that gives us the draw of Dark Depths plus Yavimaya for this guy on turn 2. Or Eye of Ugin plus Yavimaya for the Mycospawn on turn 2. And those are both really powerful things. What's more is we're playing Mox Diamond, and I don't really like Mox Diamond in decks that don't have Life from Alone. I also think Exploration would be way better for us because we get to do this. We need to put in multiple land drops here. We need to have our Thespian stage. We need to have our Dark Depths. We're also trying to cast some stuff earlier down the curve. So this deck should probably be a Exploration Life from Alone deck. And that's going to change what this looks like a lot. Maybe we don't need to be a crop rotation deck, as weird as that sounds. Maybe we can just play like the value-y sort of creatures. The issue with doing that, of course, is our Sloth doesn't do anything if we don't have Dark Depths. And this is the problem with Megasloth, in my opinion, is if we have a Dark Depths to enable the Sloth, quite often we also just have the Thespian stage or the ability to go fetch the Thespian stage. So it's better off spending the time or the mana or whatever to go and make sure that we're comboing instead of playing a creature that has to attack 3 times to kill our opponent. So I'm not really convinced by Sloth as a card. I'm also not a fan of how this deck looks. There should be 4 rares of Sagas in it, for example. We need to have some Wasteland, some explorations, sorry. We need to have the Life from the Loams going. I think you could probably cut the Mox Diamonds and add in some explorations instead of Mox Diamond, and that would probably be better. And then we probably need to up our green count as well, because that's another issue we're having a little bit. Now, it was actually okay for us, but I think there was 1 or 2 games where we relied on the Mox Diamond for green, and we had to think about what happens if we get wasted here. Can we get wasted off of green? So we're trying to do quite a lot here, and the things we're trying to build our deck around, like the Sloth, just doesn't feel worth it to me. I think you could build more heavily into Sloth using like the green impending creature, maybe play a different one of the impending creatures as well, like the black one, I think, and then, you know, get some discount on this, even if it's not going to be the super cheapest thing. But like, there's the impending green one makes you mana as well, so it's mana ramp as well as counters, which makes this cheaper. And if you're playing multiple of these things with counters, and all of a sudden this gets better, you could run Gemstone Mine to help you get counters for this, and then we just Reclaimer or Crop Rot it away. There's definitely ways you could index into Lumbering Megasloth more, but the question I ask is it worth it? And I don't believe it is. I would like to see some Megasloth builds from other people, though, and see how they feel. This is obviously just like a little first draft that was doing some interesting things. But I think if we would just cut the Megasloths all together and just run like an Eldrazi Depths deck, that might actually just be better. And just bang in a load of Eye of Ugins, play, you know, the Mycospawn Thought-Knot Seer package. We could play Glaring Fleshraker as well if we want. And then all of a sudden our deck just functions a lot better. Do you realistically think you can play an Eldrazi deck with the Depths and like the Reclaimer? You probably can't afford the Crop Rot there, so you lose these. And you're just relying on these 8 ways of digging up your pieces, which means you're probably trimming on these pieces a little bit as well. But you can still have them in there. Probably not an Urza Saga deck at that point either, and you're playing more Eldrazi. But then why don't you just play full on Eldrazi? Because that deck is bananas, and it's one of the few decks that can keep up with this blue-black reanimator nonsense that everyone's getting clowned by. So I think this is a bit of a failed experiment, and I'm not very impressed with the Megasloth. I'll probably play some other Megasloth lists down the line to see how it feels. This is an interesting one with Minsk and Boo. Minsk and Boo can throw this one quite nicely. You can also put counters on it because it's got Trample, so that's also another thing to consider. Maybe it's supposed to be like a red-green build. I don't know if there's any ways of... Maybe you play the red-green impending creatures, because the red one's actually alright, if I seem to remember. It like shoots stuff for 4 or something. So maybe you could have that doing a little bit of work with your Megasloth. Just an option, but I'm not really convinced by the Sloth in terms of the hoops we have to jump through to get it to work. Maybe our opponent can poison us for 9, which makes it a bit easier to cast, but then we're in trouble anyway. If this didn't come into the battlefield tapped, maybe I would like it more. But entering tapped is a lot when we're working this hard for it. Alright, I think that's the end of this one. I hope you liked it. Please remember to like and subscribe. It helps the channel out and doesn't cost you anything. Alright, once again, thank you for watching, and goodbye.
If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbo Depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbo Depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.